but it's very hard these days to eat fish with a clear conscience. I like to know that it's come from a sustainable fishery, but actually finding out where it's come from can be quite difficult. So if in doubt, I take fish.
He spent 10 years dragging river monsters out of the mud for entertainment, only to disappear with no explanation. Jeremy Wade used to hunt underwater nightmares that keep people awake at night, but lately, the spotlight is empty. He pretty much vanished into thin air. As fans flooded forums asking where their favorite monster hunter went, the truth turned out to be stranger than any fish he ever caught. Did the network push him out? Or did the danger finally catch up with him? Join us as we uncover what really happened to Jeremy Wade after River Monsters. The biologist nobody expected. Jeremy Wade was the last guy anyone expected to see on television. The guy was just a biologist and a high school science teacher. For decades, he wrote fishing articles that absolutely nobody read. He spent most of his life completely off the radar, which makes his sudden rise to fame even weirder. Going from grading high school biology quizzes to wrestling mutant river beasts is a bizarre career pivot, but it beats reading high school essays. Born in England in 1956, Jeremy studied zoology at university, which gave him a real scientific brain underneath all the adventure. That detail matters way more than people realize. He was not just some thrill-seeker chasing scary fish for clout. He genuinely understood the biology, the ecosystems, and the science behind every creature he hunted. That single thing separated him from every other fishing host who ever held a rod on camera. For years, Jeremy traveled to remote corners of the planet on tiny budgets, chasing rumors of strange fish that locals swore were real. He would vanish into the Amazon or the Congo for weeks at a time. He would come back with stories that nobody believed. He was reportedly broke for a lot of this period, funding trips however he could, and barely scraping by as a freelance adventurer with more passion than cash. It sounds romantic now. Back then, it was kind of brutal. He was a middle-aged biologist sleeping in jungle camps, getting sick from the water, and writing articles that paid almost nothing. There was no fame on the horizon, and certainly no money coming in. It was just a bizarre, stubborn obsession with fish that everyone else thought was completely made up. Regular people would have quit after the first stomach parasite. Jeremy just kept going back for more. All those miserable, lonely years were actually building up to something. Every failed fishing trip taught him a specific survival skill, and every bizarre creature he caught added to his track record. Without realizing it, the guy was slowly becoming the only person on Earth capable of hosting a TV show that had not even been invented yet. All that suffering in the jungle was not a waste of time. It was basically a decade of brutal, unpaid training. And when that show finally found him, it would turn this unknown biologist into one of the most watched faces on the entire planet. How river monsters became a global obsession. When River Monsters premiered on Animal Planet in 2009, almost nobody expected it to blow up the way it did. A show about one guy catching big fish? On paper, that sounds kind of boring. In reality, it became one of the biggest hits the network had ever produced, and it happened almost overnight. Here is the genius of it. River Monsters was never really a fishing show. It was a detective story wearing a fishing show costume. Each episode opened with a mystery, usually a real attack or a disappearance or a terrifying local legend. Then Jeremy played the investigator, traveling to the location and slowly hunting down the creature that might be responsible. Fans were not tuning in for the fish. They were tuning in to solve the case alongside him. And the creatures were genuinely insane. Goliath tigerfish with teeth like steak knives, giant freshwater stingrays the size of dinner tables, electric eels, monster catfish, and things that looked like they swam straight out of a horror movie. Jeremy pulled them out of the water with his bare hands and a calm voice that somehow made everything feel even scarier than it already was. That calm was his secret weapon. While everything around him screamed danger, Jeremy stayed quiet and thoughtful, and almost gentle. He talked to fans like a teacher instead of a daredevil. It made people trust him. It made the science feel real instead of cheesy. And it pulled in viewers who never thought they cared about fish at all. The show ran for years and turned Jeremy into a worldwide icon. Reruns played constantly across the globe. His face showed up everywhere. Kids who had never held a fishing rod suddenly knew his name by heart. For a man who spent decades in total obscurity, the fame arrived fast and hit hard, and he handled it with the same steady calm he showed on the water. What also made the show special was how much respect Jeremy showed the places he visited. He did not treat remote rivers like a theme park or the people who lived there like background extras. He listened to local fishermen. He took their legends seriously instead of laughing them off. That respect came through on camera, and it gave the whole series a heart that most adventure shows completely lack. Fans could feel that he actually cared. And that emotional honesty is a big reason the show aged so well and still pulls in new viewers today. But here is the thing about a show built on monsters. Eventually, you start running out of monsters, and the way that ending actually happened is nothing like what fans assumed. The real reason the show ended. When River Monsters wrapped up in 2017, fans were devastated and honestly pretty confused. The show was still popular. Jeremy was still a massive star. So why on earth would Animal Planet pull the plug on one of its most successful series while it was still winning? All those miserable years in the mud actually served a purpose. Every failed trip taught the guy how not to die, and every weird creature he dragged out of the swamp added to his resume. Without even realizing it, he was becoming the only person alive capable of hosting a television show that did not yet exist. Spending a decade suffering in the jungle was not a waste of time. It was just a brutal, unpaid internship. The actual answer was way more honest, and honestly, kind of beautiful. Jeremy and his team chose to end it. They were not pushed out. There was reportedly no big fight, no scandal, and no surprise cancellation. The show ended because the people behind it felt they had genuinely run out of monsters to chase. And that is a wildly rare thing in television. For almost 10 years, Jeremy hunted down basically every terrifying river legend on the planet. The show covered the massive ones, the creepy ones, and the mythical monsters that actually turned out to be real. The crew reached a point where they did not want to repeat themselves or stretch a good premise thin just to keep the TV network happy. It made more sense to quit while they were ahead, rather than slowly turn into a sad rerun machine. That move says everything about who Jeremy is. Most shows ride the wave until viewers get bored and the ratings finally collapse. Jeremy basically looked at all of that success and said no thanks. He walked away while people still wanted more of him. He protected the legacy instead of squeezing every last drop out of it, and fans respected him even more for it. Still, walking away from a global hit raises one obvious question, because Jeremy did not retire quietly as everyone expected. He went somewhere fans never saw coming. Where he actually went next? Here is where the whole Jeremy disappeared theory completely falls apart. He did not vanish at all. He pivoted, and the direction he chose says everything about who he really is underneath the Monster Hunter image. Instead of cashing out and kicking back, Jeremy went bigger and more serious. He launched a new series, often referred to as Mighty Rivers, around 2018, but this one carried a completely different mission. It was not about catching scary creatures anymore. It was about saving the rivers those creatures actually lived in. And that change of focus surprised a lot of people. The change in tone was massive. River Monsters was pure entertainment wrapped in science, but Mighty Rivers felt like a depressing wake-up call. Jeremy traveled to places like the Amazon and the Ganges just to show how thoroughly ruined they actually are. The episodes became a laundry list of disasters: pollution, overfishing, massive dams choking the water, and climate change squeezing whatever was left. Suddenly, the giant fish were not the threat anymore. Humans were. It would have been so easy for Jeremy to just keep making monster content forever. Fans wanted it. The money was right there for the taking. But he reportedly cared more about using his fame for something that actually mattered in the long run. He had spent his entire life on these rivers. Now he wanted to protect them while there was still time. He followed that up with another project sometimes called Dark Waters, where he kept investigating strange aquatic mysteries, but always through that same thoughtful, science-first lens. The adventure was still there. The danger was still there. The conservation message just got a whole lot louder, and the storytelling stayed as gripping as ever. A lot of celebrities slap their name on a charity and call it a day. Jeremy did something completely different. He rebuilt his entire platform to spotlight environmental damage, and he did it quietly, without turning it into a big self-congratulating show. No drama, no grand speeches, just a man using his fame, the exact way he believed it should be used. But his most surprising move was not on the rivers at all. It was somewhere much, much deeper than anyone expected him to go. From rivers to the deep ocean, just when fans thought they finally understood Jeremy's new direction, he flipped the script all over again. The man who built his entire career on rivers turned around and headed straight for the ocean. And not the shallow, friendly, sunny part either. He aimed for the deep, dark, genuinely terrifying part. In a project often referred to as Mysteries of the Deep, Jeremy shifted his focus to the ocean's strangest, unexplained phenomena. This was a whole new world for him. Rivers were his home turf, the place he knew better than almost anyone alive. The deep sea was alien territory, packed with things science still barely understands. It was a bold swing for someone so tied to freshwater. What made this move so interesting is that the ocean is basically the final frontier on this planet. Humans have mapped more of the surface of the moon than the bottom of the deep sea. So for an explorer like Jeremy, it was the ultimate challenge. New mysteries, new creatures nobody had names for, new questions that do not have clean answers yet. You could feel the spark of a man who refused to ever get comfortable. This phase also exposed how much fans had quietly underestimated him. People filed Jeremy away as the big, scary fish guy. But really, he had always been a curious scientist chasing the unknown wherever it happened to live. Rivers were just the beginning of the story. The ocean was the natural next step for a brain that genuinely never stopped asking questions. The change also kept things interesting. Instead of dragging out the old formula until the ratings completely died, there was a pivot to a new format in a new environment. It featured the same low-key guy, but with different stakes. That kind of transition is incredibly rare in television, mostly because networks prefer to keep people doing the same bit until everyone is sick of it. The big mystery about where the guy went basically answers itself. There was no career crash. There was just a decision to move on to different projects without throwing a massive tantrum for media attention. Apparently, The ultimate television power move is just doing your job well, collecting a paycheck, and then disappearing before the internet has a chance to ruin you. Yet behind all that adventure, there was a darker side to his career that fans rarely got to see in the finished episodes. The danger fans never fully saw. Despite how calm Jeremy looked on camera, his actual life in the wild was significantly more dangerous than the network let on. The highly edited episodes completely glossed over a massive amount of terrifying moments that were entirely too dark or chaotic to ever make the final cut. Over the years, Jeremy faced serious tropical illnesses, including malaria, while filming in remote regions far from any hospital. Diseases like malaria are a constant threat in the places he traveled, and spending decades in jungles and rivers takes a brutal toll on the human body. The man was not just out there having fun, he was constantly gambling with his own health for the sake of the story. There are also documented stories about close calls in the field. He was reportedly threatened at gunpoint and even survived a plane crash during his travels. Remote filming meant sketchy small planes, unpredictable boats, dangerous wildlife, and basically zero quick access to medical help. When something went wrong out there, rescue was often hours or even days away. That is a level of risk most television hosts never come anywhere near in their entire careers. Then, there is the mental toll that everyone completely ignores. Spending months away from home, year after year, stuck in the middle of absolutely nowhere. The fame looked great on a TV screen, but the actual reality was just pure exhaustion, constant sickness, and endless isolation. Travel shows always hide the real cost of production, and Jeremy just dealt with the misery for years without making a scene. The contrast makes the whole relaxed TV persona pretty hilarious. On screen, viewers just saw a chill guy softly explaining fish facts. Nobody saw the actual toll behind the scenes. The production completely hid the brutal recovery times, the constant physical danger, and the absolute mental exhaustion of ruining his body just to get 20 seconds of good footage for a cable network. The brutal reality explains exactly why walking away from the show made perfect sense. After spending a decade putting up with that level of physical punishment, quitting was not a sign of weakness. It was just basic common sense. Jeremy managed to survive a laundry list of situations that easily could have killed him, and he was smart enough to walk away before his luck completely ran out. The danger shaped the man, but it never broke him. And what he chose to do with everything he learned might be the most surprising twist of all. What Jeremy Wade is really doing now. After decades of dealing with river monsters, polluted waters, and the general misery of the deep ocean, the question is, what happened to the guy? The current reality is exactly what makes sense, even if it feels a little boring compared to getting bit by an electric eel. Turns out he did not get eaten by a mutant catfish. He just hit his late 60s and decided that filming for a massive chunk of the year was exhausting, so he took a step back from the spotlight to live a normal life in England. After surviving malaria and a plane crash, sitting on a regular couch is probably the most extreme thing he wants to do. Jeremy did not crash out or fade into nothing. He settled into the role he was honestly always meant for. Part explorer, part educator, part quiet advocate for the natural world. The fame handed him a powerful platform, and he reportedly uses it for the stuff he genuinely cares about instead of chasing constant attention or relevance. That is the real plot twist of his whole story. Most stars are absolutely terrified of losing the spotlight the second it starts to dim. Jeremy seems completely fine stepping out of it on his own terms. He is not posting manufactured drama. He is not begging the algorithm for relevance. He just kept being a curious biologist who happens to be famous, which is far rarer than it sounds. His legacy is so much bigger than any single fish he ever pulled out of the water. River monsters changed the way people saw nature documentaries forever. It proved that science could be genuinely thrilling. It inspired a whole generation of kids to care about rivers, biology, and the weird creatures hiding just beneath the surface. Teachers still play his episodes in classrooms. Fans still re-watch them constantly years later. The most important part of the whole story is the message left behind at the end. The guy spent the second half of his career pointing out that the real monsters were never actually the fish. The actual threats are pollution, environmental destruction, and the human habit of ruining the planet. A television show about terrifying river beasts slowly turned into a quiet conservation campaign. And it worked because there was zero preaching involved. So what do you think really happened to Jeremy Wade? A quiet exit or a smart reinvention? Do fans deserve to see him back on screen one more time? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.